Hello, and welcome to part one of a series of videos on portraits. A portrait is a painting, a drawing, or a photograph of a person. We are going to focus on drawing portraits, and today specifically I'm going to show you some techniques that I've learned on how to draw the specific facial features. But before we get to that, I'd like to talk to you about perseverance. Perseverance is a skill that we all need to use. It is trying very hard to accomplish a goal and not giving up even when things feel difficult. Here is the Peaceful Schools poster for perseverance. We can see a figure who looks like he is trying to climb up a hill, which is his goal. But there are all of these arrows pushing against him, making his goal harder to reach. There can sometimes be obstacles in our way, making things more difficult. But don't quit. Keep trying, persevere, and you could accomplish anything. We all have different strategies of things that help us to persevere when things get tough. We might talk to a friend or take a break and just take a deep breath. Or maybe there's a saying or a mantra that we like to tell ourselves to inspire us. And now I know we all know one of the most famous perseverance mantras.
When life gets you down, you know what you gotta do?
I don't want to know what you gotta do.
Just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, swimming, swimming. What do? We swim, swim.
Whatever helps you to persevere and keep going. So now today, remember, we're going to be doing something that's a little bit more difficult, and you're going to need to use your perseverance strategies to help you keep going. I'm going to take you through the different facial features one by one, and give you some techniques and tips on how to draw them realistically. Now, these are all just techniques that I have learned growing up from teachers, family members, books, the internet. So there's actually a lot of different methods out there. This is just one. So if you don't like my way, you can do some research yourself to find a different way to do this. All you're going to need to follow along with this video is paper, pencil, and perseverance. Something that I'd like you to really pay attention to throughout this entire portrait series is how hard you are pushing with your pencil. Now, when we're just sketching out the beginnings of things, we're going to be drawing some shapes that are just guidelines that we're going to want to erase later. So you're going to have to push very lightly with your pencil so that you can erase easily. Now, this also helps with perseverance because if we make some mistakes, we can erase and try again. This is also very important when we start to shade our project. The harder that we press on our pencils makes a darker shade, and the lighter that we press makes a lighter shade. So I would actually suggest that you practice a few times going from as dark as possible to as light as possible and then back and forth again. One technique for drawing noses is to start with 3 circles, one large in the middle for the tip of the nose and 2 smaller on the sides for the nostrils. Changing the shape of these circles will change the shape of the nose you're drawing. Start by darkening around the sides of the small circles to make the nostrils, and then make a curved line connecting the bottom of the circles. After that, we erase what's left of our circles, leaving the sections where they crisscross. This can help us with shading later. Once you get the hang of these shapes, you can skip the circle step altogether. That's what I'm going to do now and use a picture I found from a magazine to look at. I start the same way, drawing the line underneath the nose and around the nostrils, but this time trying to make it look more like the picture. These are really the only lines in a nose. The rest is shading. There is some shading on the sides of the nose where the crisscross circle spots would be, but the darkest part of the nose tends to be underneath it. Then there is light shading along the sides and near the top to show the shape of it. This can all change based on the strength and direction of the light source of what you're drawing. If the light is very bright along one side of the face, you might have darker shadows on the other side of the nose. It's important to remember that these tips are general rules, but things can change depending on the light. To start drawing mouths, we can again start with 3 circles, 1 on top and 2 underneath. Then we draw a curved line going across and in between the 3 circles and extend our lines about the same on either side. This will make the line that is made where our lips touch. The top of the lip usually has a curve in it called the Cupid's bow. Draw this going through the top circle and then connect it to your lines on the side. To draw the bottom edge of the bottom lip, draw a line underneath the 2 circles and connect it on the sides. Now you would erase your circles and start shading. But again, if you change the size of the circles, you can change the shape of the lips. And by curving the extended lines on the side either up or down, you can change the expression of the mouth from neutral to smiling or frowning. Same as with the nose, once you get the hang of these shapes, you can skip using the circles. I'm going to draw the mouth from this chapstick ad and start again with the line in between the lips. Now we shade. The corners of the mouth have darker shadows because they are slightly further away from us, the viewers or the artists. The top lip also tends to be a little darker than the bottom because of how it's angled slightly downward. Use smooth shading, but don't forget details. Keep the line in between the lips sharp, and you can add some creases if you like. Just remember that too many creases might make your lips look either older or chapped and dry. And again, remember that our shading can change based on the light that is shining on the lips. I saved the eyes for last because they are my absolute favorite thing to draw. And we're going to start with the anatomy of an eye. An eye is called an eyeball because it is a ball. So we're going to start by drawing a large circle. Then we're going to draw a smaller circle inside of it. This is the iris, or the colored part of our eyes. To get the right sized iris, one trick is to make it about 2/4 the size of the entire eye. We can split our large circle into 4 equal parts, and the iris should be as wide as the 2 parts in the middle. I realized that I labeled this part the pupil in the video, but I meant to write iris, so please ignore that. The iris is a muscle and has a hole in the center. This is the pupil, and it looks black to us. The iris can loosen or contract to make the pupil bigger or smaller, so the size of this can change. Just draw another circle in the center of the iris. Now to draw the shape of the eye. Unless a person is surprised or scared, we don't usually see the whole iris. Draw the top eyelid so it covers the top of the iris, and the bottom lid can go underneath or through the iris depending on the expression or the person. The inner corner of the eye contains a tear duct, so draw that past the circle of the eyeball, but the outer corner will stay inside the circle. Now you would erase the lines outside of the shape and start shading, and as always, if you get used to the anatomy, you can skip this step of drawing the large circle. But this time when we draw from a picture, I would suggest to start with the shape of the eye first, remembering the tear duct in the inner corner. Then draw the iris and pupil, make sure that the top of the iris is covered by the eyelid. One thing that's important to make your eyes look realistic is to have a highlight or shine spot. This is a reflection of a light source that can always be seen in our eyes. I don't love the highlight in my original picture, so I'm going to use the circle shape from this second picture instead. When we shade the eyeball, there are a few tricks. The pupil is always as black as we can make it. The top of the iris is darker because of a shadow from the upper eyelid and eyelashes. The edges of the circle of the iris are also darker because they are usually a darker color in our eyes. The muscle of the iris is kind of bumpy and it looks like lines to us, so add some lines radiating around the pupil inside the iris. Add shading to the white of the eye. Remember, it's a ball, so there should be some shading around the outside and shadows from the eyelid, but keep it light so it still seems white. Shade the tear duct and then we can move on to the skin. The skin around the eye will be darkest at the corners and in the crease above the eye. These are the parts that are furthest away from us. When drawing eyelashes, remember that they are curved. We can sometimes see them go below the lash line. They are randomly spaced and change size and direction. At the outer edge of our eye, they tend to look the longest because they curve out. Near the middle of the eye, they curve towards us so they can look a little shorter. And in the inner corner of the eye, there are less eyelashes and they are shorter. For our lower lids, the eyelashes start a small space away from the eyeball. There are much less lashes, and they are shorter as well. How long and how dark the eyelashes are depend on the eye that you want to draw. They are usually longer and darker on women's eyes than men's. That was a lot of information, I know. So I'm going to put some pictures at the end of this video that summarize all the techniques that I've shared with you. And remember that making facial features look realistic takes a lot of practice and perseverance. I know that for maybe about 2 years of my life, you can ask my mother, all that I drew were eyes. I really wanted to get eyes right so they'd be on the side of my homework or my notes from class. So try out these techniques. Try that little circle technique where you're kind of drawing a facial feature from your head, but also try looking at it. Find a picture that you can draw from, or ask a family member to sit in front of you, or use a mirror to draw your own facial features. A lot of times we learn the best from observation or really looking at what we're trying to draw. And remember, this is only part 1 of our portrait series. So practice drawing your facial features, and in the next video, we'll talk about how we can put them together to make it look like a realistic face. And we're going to have a surprise visit from another Peaceful Schools teacher, so you have to tune in to see who that's going to be. Have a great day, everyone, and remember to use your perseverance while you're practicing. We'll see you next time.